on crappie fishing tips from the professionals.
And current.
Yeah.
And current. Right now, I think what G and I have found, especially here in your waters, is that, as with many places across the country right now, is that the fish are, yes, I can go spawn, and no, I can't. And we're seeing that a lot. And a lot of the big fish that we've caught this week already are full of roe. They're ready. Some are more mature than others. There'll be waves that come in. There'll be an early wave. The early wave ones we have found are really big. They're ready. And what's happened is the weather's knocked them back. And but they're still not ready to move up on those flats. They're not ready to move up on their spawning ground. So everyone, I think, that's fished out here right now knows that they're over channels. They're positioning themselves to move towards those spawning grounds. And there are a very few, I do highlight few, up in the shallows. What I would do right now is the tip for you based upon that is to, we like to use 16-foot B&M poles and spider rig with them. And we use the B&Ms or BPJPs, which are very, very sensitive to any movement at all. The fish, in some cases, aren't really hitting it very hard. They're just very lightly hitting it. And with those very, very sensitive poles, it allows us to do that. We also use a high-vis 10-pound gamma line with it, and that allows us to be able to see those bites and see that line move. And even if something moves sideways or something else, we'll know that those fish are on there, and some of them are doing that. The other thing is we're using both plastics and we're using live bait both. And for instance, today, with the cold front coming in and the weather changing, they wouldn't bite color at all, and they went only to live bait for the most part. The previous days they were on plastics hot and heavy. They were on real good, but today it was off. And every day that progresses here, it's going to change. And so we know that. We know we've got to change every day, and that's the biggest thing, is getting in your heads and our heads, is to make sure we move with that. So the one thing I would do right now, based upon the weather, the way it is and what the fish are doing, move slow, 0.2, 0.3 miles per hour, if any, once you're over the fish. Use live bait and scent when you're doing it. We like to use Bobby Garland plastics with ours, and we like to use their scent. They have a scent that I would go out and get if I were you. Stubby Steve's is a scent that G and I religiously use. Stubby Steve's is not in any stores here. It was in Bass Pro Shops, but you can order it online. We highly recommend it. We use it on everything, even with our live bait. And if anything out there right now, the way the fish are, that you can get that fish to at least bite it, you want them to hold on to it. And so if you put a scent on there or something else, you want them to hold on to it. And we're trying to get that extra second or half second so that we can get those fish. And so those are some tips there that with some product right now that will help all your viewers and listeners out there quite well.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I know we were talking about, crappie country, and Todd and I know how y'all came about getting crappie country, but for our listeners that may not know, let them know how crappie country came about.
I'll let Garrett start, and then I'll do my part.
Well, to go all the way back, a few years ago, we met at the Porter Wagner tournament in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a benefit there, and it's typically a bass tournament, and the owner of Crappie Masters Inn was Paul Alpers. He came up with Dan and his previous partner. They were the Crappie Masters Anglers of the Year 2 years in a row. Never been done. 2011, 2012. Still hasn't. Met them there and had a great time, just kind of hit it off. They invited me to come down and sing at the national championship that year. Went down and just did an acoustic set and got second in the media fish and whatever, because I've loved to fish. I always wanted to kind of do it the way that they're doing it now. And Dan's other partner was retiring. He invited me to come out and fish with him a little bit. Went out and fished half a dozen tournaments with him, and we kind of did pretty well together. And he's like, "Well, why don't you just think about coming on as a full-blown partner?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It was awesome. So we've got talking about that and thought it was a great thing, a great way to merge a few things. He's the publisher, if you don't already know, of Crappie Now magazine, which is the largest crappie publication out there. It's an online magazine. It's free. It's the right price, and that thing is just getting bigger and bigger every week, literally. And so he's off doing that. He's thinking, he loves to speak and different seminars and so forth, and I think he's going to be doing more and more of that. Of course, I'm doing my thing in country music, and so we're like, this could really be a cool synergy because we can fish the pro circuit together as pro anglers, and then it also at the same time kind of feeds what we do individually as well. Particularly again when we're able to come on with folks like you and get radio and TV, and I'm able to do music, and he's able to talk about Crappie Now, and then we fish these tournaments, and so obviously the name he had been doing it a few years already, crappie fishing. We call him Crappie Dan now. And then me being in country music, so Crappie Country is where that came from.
It's been my goal all along, and when we got talking when we were there at Porter Wagner, and then after that, about how can we take crappie to another level.
Yes.
That's been my goal. And ever since I entered into crappie fishing about 6-7 years ago, out of bass fishing, as you get older, you find out there's limitations to your bodies, and there's certain things you can't do as much anymore. And
Your mind says you can, your body says no.
Yeah, your mind says you're young.
That's right. That's right.
No. But your body says, no, you're not. No, you're not. And
That's y'all talking.
Yeah, but it does happen. And so the one thing, though, is crappie fishing is not just for the old. I started when I was with my grandmother fishing with cane poles, as probably most of you out there can relate to. And so when I did that, I started out fishing for all those things, catfish and crappie and brim and all that. And then I got really dedicated to the bass fishing, and then when I started seeing, when I got into promotion, then I helped Paul Alpers and Crappie Masters in that endeavor to grow it and get it out there in the public eye. And so always looking for ways to be able to do that with Mike and Bass Pro Shops to make this a go, because Bass Pro Shops is one of our sponsors also.
It's come so far. I was excited about it because I knew it'd come a long way from the cane pole and the cork, and it has. I mean, even if you are one poling, the equipment now is so incredible. And of course, we push with the spider rigging. Everybody knows about that usually, but planer boarding is a new thing that we're doing because that was introduced a few years ago by some of the walleye guys who won the national championship. So now you catch Crappie Dan and I when we're pulling. We're pulling planer boards. So there's a lot that goes into crappie. On one hand, it's like, kind of getting old, blah, blah, blah. But let me just tell you, if you're out there planer boarding or whatever else, you're working if they're biting. So it's almost a science. There's a lot to it. And I thought, what? I want to be involved, with him to try to bring that to the masses a little more. Bass always gets the bass is sexy, and it gets all the notoriety and money, but man, crappie fishing has come a long way.
And plus, country music has always been related to fishing. Through all the years, it's the basics. You go back to sports, and you go back to fishing and outdoors and hunting, and everything has been tied to that because it takes us back to the essence of who we are.
That's right.
You get kids today, especially, we try to get outside, get into the outdoors and show them what's out there.
That's so important in today's society, is to getting our kids, back out in the outdoors, not out from in front of TVs and video games and things like that. Get them out there where they can learn these experiences on their own. Because I seen a Facebook post one day that says, your kids don't make memories sitting in front of the Xbox.
That's right.
They make memories out there on the lake, or sitting in the deer stand, or playing outside sports and things. But
great family events.
like you're talking so much about the bass fishing. For so many years, it's almost like the fishing world technology was focused on improving bass fishing, and then over the last few years, now you've seen that focus go towards crappie fishing as well. So it's not just bass fishing getting the attention. Now crappie fishing's getting it with all the fancy technology and the equipment that y'all use in today's crappie fishing. Last year you heard y'all talking about spider rigging and planer boarding. It's the first time I ever heard of anything like that. And I'm thinking, this must be something that just the pros do. But then you go out on the lake on the weekend and you see somebody out there doing the spider rigging. I'm like, I guess everybody does that now. I'm over here trying to hang a yo-yo, and they're out there spider rigging.
Plus, there was, when we get talking, meet people every time we stop at a gas station or I stop. Everybody wants to talk, and they want to see the boat. They want to see the Ranger boat, and they want to see how it's laid out, because it ain't laid out like a normal boat. And we've got a bass boat. Everybody calls it a bass boat, but we call it a fishing boat. Mm-hmm. And it's a Z521 C, and it's rigged for spider rigging, pulling, jigging, whatever we are. We can pull things off, put things on. We got brand new Driftmaster rod holders on there that are geared towards, now redesigned, that we came up with. I laid them out in front of David Baynard, and Driftmaster has now come out for any boat that can be tailored to them, and are getting better and better and better. So Rangers come out with crappie fishing boats now, and Yamaha is on board with it. They love doing it. Garmin's on board. Just lots of people, power pole and all. They do the drift boards, and everybody wants to know about drift boards. What are they about? You're right. It's all about of getting the attention on it, to say this can be a family event. Mm-hmm. And to help start a club in my area in central Alabama just no more than 2 months ago. We're now 60 strong, 60 members in just a month and a half, and it's going to grow more. And we laid it out so that families, kids could come out and fish on the boats in the tournaments, so that they can see and can learn and experience what Garrett and I get to experience every day. And if we can get the kids into this sport, and all of you out there can get your children where they can get out there in the sport and fish and enjoy it and have fun together and get them away from all the rest of it.
You've been listening to Bayou Power Sports Southern Outdoors on Z107.5. We're going to take you to break. When we come back, we'll have your NELA Archery Talk. That's Northeast Louisiana Archery Talk.